Never again. You know, that was the legacy and the promise of the civilized world in the aftermath of the Holocaust. But as we have seen this humanitarian catastrophe unfold in Syria, it has betrayed our values. Ambassador John Bolton joins us, former U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, senior fellow at the American Enterprise Institute, Fox News contributor, who's been mentioned as a possible Deputy Secretary of State. So, Ambassador, Vitaly Churkin, a man you know well, the Russian ambassador to the UN, says that Russia will veto a resolution this afternoon in the Security Council that is designed to protect the civilians. I mean, is there no end to this crisis? And what do we do as a civilized people when we've seen what's unfolded in Syria the past 4 and 5 years?
Well, there's certainly no end to it if we continue the same failed approach that we've had basically since the Arab Spring began in 2011, whether it was Hillary Clinton, who was Secretary of State, or John Kerry. The Obama administration's consistent position now for nearly 6 years has been Russia and the United States agree that Assad needs to be replaced, and we're working together with Russia to figure out how to do it. It was never correct. The Russians were never going to allow Assad to fall, and talking to them about how to make that happen was a complete waste of time, as well as failing to deal with the Iranian support for Assad directly and through their surrogate, the terrorist group Hezbollah. It's Russia and Iran that have kept Assad in power, and Obama wasn't going to do anything to upset the Ayatollahs and possibly derail the nuclear deal. So we ask, how is it that we've come to this place, at least from the American perspective, because we've been pursuing the wrong policies for 6 years? So
does that mean now, going forward, we acquiesce to Assad, which means Moscow wins and Tehran wins?
Yeah, well, it looks to me on the ground inside Syria that there's very little left of the opposition in any coherent fashion. And, you know, we've got a very complicated situation. You have the Assad regime, you have the radical opposition, you have the moderate opposition, you have ISIS, you have Kurds, you have Hezbollah. It is a very complex situation, but the net is that the Iranian-Assad-Russian axis is prevailing. And I'm not sure that the opposition, whether the Syrian opposition, whether moderate or radical, can sustain itself much longer. And you have to ask, if they now get picked apart, pocket of resistance that they hold by pocket of resistance, are we just going to see what happened in Aleppo happen again and again and again?
And how do we protect the civilians? Let me show you a soundbite from President-elect Trump saying that he intends to install some safe zones and have our Arab allies pay for it. Here's what he said.
When I look at what's going on in Syria, it's so sad. It's so sad. And we've got to help people. And we have the Gulf states. They have nothing but money. We don't have money. We owe $20 trillion. I will get the Gulf states to give us lots of money, and we'll build and help build safe zones in Syria so people can have a chance.
You think that's going to happen? I mean, how are the Gulf states going to pony up?
Well, the Gulf states have plenty of money, but I have to say, in my own personal point of view, ever since the safe zone at Sarajevo in the breakup of Yugoslavia turned into a killing zone, I don't have a lot of faith in these. Look, even the refugee camps that the UN High Commissioner for Refugees is supervising are simply R&R camps for various of the combatants. This is not going to be solved until there's ultimately a political solution, and I've been worried for quite some time that the political solution might be that Assad, wrapping up the Syrian opposition, and the Iranians and the Russians come to a modus vivendi with ISIS to allow them each to control the territory they have and not attack each other. Sound far-fetched? Remember the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact in just before World War II in Eastern Europe, when the communists and the Nazis divided up Poland. Strange bedfellows can get together diplomatically when it's in their interest to do so.
So bottom line, at the very end, Assad stays in power and maybe the country's carved up a bit.
I think Syria and Iraq have both ceased to exist as functioning states, and I don't know who's big enough to push Assad out of power at this point.
Well, he's there and he's staying there, and it seems with Moscow and Tehran's backing, they've become the victor. Ambassador John Bolton, as always, thank you for your insight.
Thank you, Eric.